Okay, today we are on page 48 in the Module 3 book for 7th grade. We're going to be doing example 1. So in example 1, we have Julia, Keller, and Israel are volunteer firefighters. On Saturday, the volunteer fire department held its annual coin drop fundraiser at a streetlight. After 1 hour, Keller had collected $42.50 more than Julia, and Israel had collected $15 less than Keller. The three firefighters collected $125.95 in total. How much did each person collect? We're going to find the solution using a tape diagram. So here's what we do. We're going to list out the names of the three firefighters: Julia, Keller, and Israel. And let's see, we know that Keller collected $42.50 more than Julia. So let's break that down first. Well, let's say Julia collects an amount represented by this piece of tape right here. Keller collected this same amount, so I'm going to try to make it perfectly the same length here. So we'll call this Julia's amount, and this is also Julia's amount, but Keller collected $42.50 more than Julia. So I'm going to put another box on this that just shows that Keller collected the same amount as Julia plus $42.50 more. Well, nice. So we have Julia and Keller covered with how much they collected, but remember, there was Israel. Now, Israel collected $15 less than Keller. So Israel collected a little less than Keller, but that means that he also collected Julia's amount because Keller collected Julia's amount. So, okay. And now Keller's amount is not going to be this full $42.50. Keller's amount is going to be a little less than that. And we don't know exactly how long this is right now, but we do know that the amount less than, so the amount that's missing from Israel's amount that is in the amount Keller collected, is 15. So what we could do is we could do $42.50 minus 15 to find out what this amount Israel collected that's just a little more than Julia's. So if you do 42 minus 15, you will get 2750. And then remember, all of these firefighters, well, all three of them together collected $125.90 in total. So let's use this information here that we just kind of organized in a tape diagram to come up with how much each person individually collected. So the way to set this up, we're going to set up an equation, and we know that everything together equals $125.90, or I'm sorry, 95 cents. Good thing I fixed that now. Good thing I caught that. Okay, so if I go forward with this, let's see. We are just going to take all of these chunks right here and we're going to put them all together to get that $125.95. So we see how we have Julia's amount, and we have 3 of Julia's amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 3 multiplied by whatever Julia's amount is. And let's see. So we covered this, and this is covered. Now what else do we have to include? Well, we have to include this $42.50. That gets added in there. There we go. This 15 just represented how much less than, so it's not actually an amount we include, it just showed us how much less Israel collected than Keller. So the other amount we have to include is $27.50. So I'm going to put plus $27.50 right there. Okay, let's keep going. So we have, well, let's do this. I notice that we can add $42.50 and $27.50. So I'm going to drop down the 3 times Julia's amount, and we will combine this to $42.50 plus $27.50, and that will give us $70. So then we can start thinking, well, we want to find out Julia's amount, because then we can find out everything else from there. So let's do this. Let's get Julia's amount alone. First thing I'll do is subtract that 70, because remember, if I get 0 here, then these cancel out. I'll be left with 3 times just Julia's amount, again getting just closer to having just Julia's amount equals a number. So 125.95 minus 70, what does that give us? That gives us 55.95. And let's keep going. Last thing I want to do is get the Julia's amount by itself. So I am going to divide both sides by 3. Because remember, 3 divided by 3 would equal 1. We would have 1 times Julia's amount. And 1 times Julia's amount still equals $55.95. So, or wait, no, I'm sorry, it does not. Because we have to make sure we divide the other side by 3. So to divide the other side by 3, we're going to do 18. Well, we would get $18.65. So Julia's amount was $18.65. Let's kind of summarize all this down here. So we'll say Julia collected put my money sign, $18.65. So to help this make sense, I'll put $18.65 up here. That means Keller collected, well, she collected Julia's amount and $42.50. So $18.65 plus $42.50 means Keller collected $61.15. And last we have Israel. Israel collected $15 less than Keller. So to find out Israel's amount, we're going to do $61.15 minus 15. That would give us $46.15. Okay. Okay, going on. We're going to skip over this question because we just did it all, so we're not going to summarize it. But let's go on to this second question here. So the amount of money Julia collected is J dollars. So they want us to write an expression to represent the amount of money Keller collected in dollars, and we're going to use that J. So let's just say J equals money Julia collected. Keller. So write an expression to represent the amount of money Keller collected in dollars. So remember, Keller ended up collecting $42.50 more than Julia. So Julia, we'll put Julia's amount, which is J, and more than means plus 42.50. So we would add J plus 42.50 to find out exactly how much Keller collected. Now we're still going to use this variable J equals the number of, or the amount of money Julia collected for the second one. Now remember, so we're going to use that same for Israel. We're going to use J, and we're going to figure out how to write an expression for Israel. So Israel collected $15 less than Keller. So what we can do is we can use Keller's amount, and we can subtract $15. And all this represents the amount of money Israel collected in dollars. So Keller's amount was J plus 42.50, and then we'll just put minus 15 behind it, and all this is going to represent the amount of money Israel collected. And we clean this up even more because we can actually do 42.50 minus 15. So it's going to be J plus 27.50. All right. Using the expressions written above, write an equation in terms of J that can be used to find the amount each person collected. So remember, we have Julia's amount, and the whole story is that all three of them together collected $125.95 total. So that total means when we add them all up, so Julia plus Keller's plus Israel's, all that is going to equal $125.95. So we know Julia's amount was just J, because that's what we've been saying. We said that very beginning of these little mini questions. Keller's amount is J plus 42.50 plus Israel's amount. Israel is J plus 27.50. All that equals $125.95. All right. Now it says solve the equation written above to determine the amount of money each person collected and describe if any if-then moves used. So, all right, here we are. This will be a little cleaner to understand. So, we're going to use the equation we just came up with up above. If you take a good look, this is exactly the same as what we just did up above, this equation in terms of J. What we're going to do first is we are going to reorder it. So we saw here how we have J plus another J plus another J. Even though there's parentheses, it's only addition, so we don't need it. So repeated addition, J plus J plus J turns into multiplication, 3 times J. Then another thing we did, 4250 plus 2750 equals 70. So we actually add those together, and we can because we know what the numbers are. All right, on this side, we want to get the J alone because that's going to help us figure it out. So the first thing we have to do is subtract by 70 on both sides. Remember, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. After that happens, we're left with 0 here, because remember, this and this cancel out. And then $125.95 minus $70 gives us $55.95. And we know 3J plus 0 just equals 3J. From there, we want to move to 3. Now, this is something written a little different. Right here, we're multiplying by 1/3. And since we do it to one side, we do it to the other. Why is that? Because multiplying by 1/3 is the same as dividing by 3. That cancels out the 3 right there. So all we're left with then on that side is 1J, 1 times J. So really they're just showing you what they're multiplying here. 1 times J. And on the other side, $55.95 times 1/3 gives us $18.65. Finally, J equals $18.65 based on all that. So if Julia collected, so J equals the amount of money Julia collected. If Julia collected $18.65, remember Keller collected $42.50 more than her. So Keller collected $61.15. And Israel collected the same amount, well, not the same amount. Israel collected $15 less than Keller. So we do Keller's amount minus $15, and that gives us Israel's amount. So Israel collected $46.15. So all that is an example of how we could have used algebra instead of all this fancy stuff up here.